Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
All right, let's talk about soulmates. That's tonight's topic.
Okay, I have a question about soulmates then, because you're a recovering Catholic, and I don't know how Catholic magic works. So I have a Catholic magic question for you. So I know Harry Potter spells. I get some are hexes and some are charms. I get that, but I don't know Catholic blessing magic. And in the news today and yesterday, I think, was news that the High Wizard of the Catholic Church, the Pope guy, has said, or the Vatican now has said, because I think the Pope has said stuff before, but the Vatican has like formalized that it's okay for priests, if they choose, to bless a same-sex couple. They cannot perform a wedding ceremony. No, they can't do that magic. They can't do it in a church because that's the magic place. I get it. They can't wear their magic robes. They can't wear vestments. So basically, in their spare time, they can bless a same-sex union without bringing down the wrath of the Vatican and the Vatican ninjas coming in and assassinating them in their sleep, I guess. But what I don't understand is, what the fuck does that even mean? They can bless it. They can't perform a ceremony, but they can bless it. Does that mean they can say Mazel Tov without getting in trouble? Like, what is the blessing spell, and what does it mean? Why does anyone care they can cast that spell if they're still sending them to hell and still won't perform marriages? Speak for your ex people.
I have no idea. If I were to guess, it's if you want me to be honest, the honest
Why
answer
start
is
now?
The honest answer is realistically that he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. Honestly, like that's what it is. He's trying not to seem like a monster, while also not trying to seem like so progressive that there's an uprising in Catholicism. If that's my honest guess as to what's going on here. As for the actual meaning of all that shit, I don't know.
It's weird that no article said anything other than they can bless the union, but they can't perform a wedding ceremony. I'm like, then what does that even mean? Like, I don't know what bless the union means if it's not perform a wedding ceremony. What I mean, all I can think of is it means saying Mazel Tov. Yeah, you know what I think of? I think of the scene in Blazing Saddles where the little lady calls him the N word, says, "Get out of my way, N word," and then after
What's the N word?
Nasty man. And
last time I said the N word on the show, you said, "What is it? Say it."
and then like after he stops Mongo, she knocks on the side window of the sheriff's office, and she's there with a pie, and she goes, "I just want to say I'm sorry about the," and then she said the thing again earlier, "and I wanted to make it up to you by this pie," and gives him a pie. He's like, "Well, thank you, ma'am." And she walks away. He shuts the window. He turns to talk to Gene Wilder, and there's a knock at the window. He opens it up again, and she says something to the effect of course you'll have the good manners not to mention this to anyone." And he's like, "Of course." And he closes the window, and then Gene Wilder's like, "You're becoming an underground sensation. In a couple of years, they'll even talk to you on the street in public." And that's what I feel like the Pope is doing. It's like you can't let them in the church to get married, and you can't perform the sermon, and you can't wear the collar, but you can say congratulations.
Yeah. I think honestly what it is beyond I think they can bless them the way that a normal lay person would bless them.
Like they sneeze.
No, but like
I don't get the magic. I don't know what a blessing is.
So you remember in The Godfather when Luca is talking about, may your first child be a masculine child.
Yeah, with you.
Like
there.
you could just wish upon them for them to be happy.
Yeah, so saying a priest won't get in trouble for being nice to a gay couple, basically.
Right. Yep.
Beautiful. And people think this is huge and progressive, and what a great step it is in the right direction.
Look how far we've come. So I
even when they're soulmates who are getting married, to keep us on topic.
So, soulmates.
Soulmates. What is your take on soulmates, ye who brought it up?
Well, I forget. I'm going to misquote something because I already misquoted a joke, so may as well can keep going, right? But I'm forgetting who it was that said it. They said, if soulmates are a real thing, I don't think it's something that just happens. I think it's something that you create. And that to mean that, like, yeah, there isn't like one person for me on this earth, but if I find a person that works with me and we work really hard, we can become this thing. And I like that idea. Um, it's the actual true idea of soulmates. If you don't believe in souls, is difficult to believe in soulmates.
True.
But I think that we, in a more, generic way, not specifically meaning like a literal soulmate, but in a more, um,
Is there one person who's meant for you who you connect with?
yeah, yeah,
If I may quote the wordsmith Tim Minchin in his song "If I Didn't Have You"
yeah,
on this topic, he says, "Look, I'm not undervaluing what we've got when I say that given the role chaos inevitably plays an inherently flawed notion of fate, it's obtuse to deduce that I found my soulmate at the age of 17. It's just mathematically unlikely that at a university in Perth I happened to stumble on the one girl on earth definitively designed for me. And if I may conjecture a further objection, love has nothing to do with destined perfection. The connection is strengthened, the affection simply grows over time like a flower or a mushroom or a guinea pig or a vine or a sponge or bigotry or a banana. And love is made more powerful by the ongoing drama of shared experience and the synergy of a kind of symbiotic empathy or something." Which I find
I
sums
like
it up
that
well.
song. Yeah, I I think that I agree with a lot of that. But then you like hear his later songs, and you're like, the life that he's built with his wife, like whether,
But I think he built it though. You got to build it.
yeah,
He doesn't build
I
naturally.
know.
And I think there's a large amount of luck that plays into it
Oh, sure.
because if you marry at a young age, especially you get together at a young age and then eventually get married, whatever, your the chances of growing apart and the chances of growing together is not totally within your control. I mean, and some people would say, some philosophers say, no, it's not at all in your control. It's just going to happen or it's not going to happen. So, if people grow together and continue to stay together, retroactively, we can look back and say soulmates. And if it doesn't work out,
Yes.
we go, oh, you married the wrong person.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because I mean, I probably said on the show before, maybe even last week. I have my mantra of the right time to get married is that you don't get married to the person that you think you could spend the rest of your life with. You get married to the person that you can't spend the rest of your life without. And if you start at that point, then you have a chance of actually staying together and making it. But if you start at yeah, this could work,
Yeah.
probably not going to work when it gets tough.
Yeah.
Or just not, not that close. I mean, it's hard enough to grow in the same direction. And it happens, that there's the Fiddler on the Roof, the song "Do You Love Me," where it's like they were arranged marriage 40 years ago, but they're still together, and then, they grew to love each other over time. So you can go that direction as well, that you become closer.
That's the one that's "Do You Love Me Now That I Can Dance," right?
Exactly, the classic Russian Jewish number that is what Footloose was basically based on, the fight, the dance sequence. Yeah.
Yeah. Um
Watch me now. Oi, watch me now. Oi.
what a mashup that would be. Except that I don't know the Fiddler on the Roof song. The only Fiddler on the Roof song I know is "If I Were a Rich Man," and I don't really know it that well. I know the Gwen Stefani version better. So
But there's one sweet song where the whole, if you weren't so anti-Semitic, you would have seen the movie by now or the play, and the whole premise is the original story is called Tevye and his daughters, and Tevye, the main character, is trying to marry off his daughters throughout the backdrop of Russian pogroms and towns being destroyed by Russian soldiers, pre World War One or pre Revolution, before the Russian Revolution,
yeah,
which is also pre World War One. But and one by one, they don't want to marry the person that was selected for them. They want to pick their own spouse and break tradition. So they don't want to marry the people that was slated for them. They want to break tradition. And eventually he turns to his wife and he's like, sings a song asking her if she actually has ever learned to love him. And she's like, I cooked your food, I darn your clothes, I warm your bed, and now you ask, do I love you? And then he's like, yeah, do you love me? Like, and she won't even answer. She just answers the question with a question because she's a Jew.
Yeah. So, what is your thoughts on other than the song? What are your?
I think the song sums it up. I mean, obviously, not using the magic word soul because I don't believe in souls in the first place. But
Yeah.
I don't think that there's perfect matches that if these two people just meet, everything will be perfect. I think
Yeah.
there are people who are more suited to be in a long-term relationship and could probably succeed with a number of different people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people who are shitty at being in relationships and will probably fail with a number of people. And it's not a matter of finding the right match sometimes. It's a matter of you need two people who are able to be in a long-term relationship together.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I mean, if you said soul mates, like there's huge categories of them, and it's you got to find one of them. There's a two million
Yeah.
347 out there. You just got to hook up with one of them. 300 million Americans. They may not all be in America. Like the point
Yeah.
in Tim mentioned song about that I would meet her at a university at Perth. Like Madhav and I met at NC State. Like, is that my soulmate just happened to be at the school that I transferred to? Lucky
Oh
me.
yeah. Yeah. I met Sarah like 3 miles from where I went to high school. Yeah. Now, here's a hypothetical for you, and I think that I can convince you that soulmates could hypothetically exist. Okay, there's a man and a woman. It can be a man and a man, or a woman
So
and a woman.
sexist.
But no, it's actually it's homophobic.
So
Um,
heteronormative of you.
heteronormative. Uh, there are
Ooh, humans are
who
fucking you.
two people who are both foot fetishists and live in Korea, and they meet each other
North or
and they
south?
fall. I don't remember which one has soul. God damn it! I was really hoping you weren't going to call me on that. So there's two foot fetishists and then they meet each other and they fall in love and they spend the rest of their lives together. Are they soulmates from Seoul who happen to love each other's souls?
They're soulmates who mate solely in Seoul with their souls.
Yeah,
South Korea.
South Korea. That makes sense.
It'd
That
be better
is
if it was
that
North Korea because then they wouldn't be able to leave. So it would solely be in Seoul because they wouldn't be able to leave ever.
yeah.
Did you ever read the Kurt Vonnegut book Cat's Cradle?
No.
There is a banned religion called Bokononism, and a part of the ritual is you take off your shoes and socks and you rub souls with the person that you love,
Oh,
so that
nice.
your souls can make contact with each other.
He was so I've only read Slaughterhouse. Slaughter is it Slaughter? Yeah, I was gonna say five,
You
but
didn't
then
read, you didn't read the first four.
No, did not. But that Slaughterhouse Five, it didn't sound. That sounds like very much like something that would happen in a Douglas Adams book, more so than what a little bit that I read of Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah, well, it was a satire of religion and politics. So the as it turns out, the religion's a made up religion. I mean, they all are,
Yeah.
but it's made up on the island as part of because it's a banned religion. It's made up by the government to be banned, so that people will practice it in spite of the government and feel like they're getting one over on the government, and they reinforce each other, kind of like the emperor being the chancellor at the same time.
Yeah. The Emperor in the Emperor's New Groove.
Exactly. I don't feel like I have to say it. Oh, I forgot you don't watch Disney because you hate your child. I forgot. I forgot.
I watch Disney. I just don't watch Seven Dwarfs.
Because
I've been on the show. I've been on because it's what?
because they're anti-Semitic. The short people with big noses who go digging for money all the time.
God damn it! We'll bring it right back.
That's not my fault.
Uh,
That's every story of dwarves and goblins that from British and European folklore is anti-Semitic tropes. I didn't cause that. It's J.K.
True.
Rowling's fault.
Yeah. I love that clip of Jon Stewart when he's like talking about how the Gringotts goblins look like the not elders of Zion, the was
The
the
Keebler
name
elves.
protocols of Zion, and how and then people are like were flipping out that he called her anti-Semitic. He's like, no, 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 I'm just saying that, like, holy fuck.
I mean, there's a Star of David in the floor in the movie, and I know she didn't do the set of the movie, so that's not her fault. But
Yeah,
still, holy fuck.
yeah. So anyway,
I mean, and I don't
soulmates.
blame her for that. That's the European tradition. She just used what was there, probably uncritically, and didn't think about. Oh wait, that's what that means.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a Middle Ages race, the anti-Semitism. It's not that one's not her fault. The trans
yeah,
stuff, that's her fault.
yeah. There's plenty to blame her for. So soulmates. Do
So
you think? Go ahead.
no, as I say, I think there are some people who will never be in a great long-term relationship. Some people who could do it easily with a number of people, and
Yeah,
some people who need to find someone, the right person, and it could take 3 or 4 tries. But they're also not the same person at try three as they were in try one. And maybe if they were
true.
that mature the first time, they would have done it right the first time.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Um, I also think like so. I have an example of this. I have two friends who I think were absolutely head over heels in love with each other, and it just never clicked timing wise for them. And I think that like if it had, if their timing had been correct, I think that they would have had been together and had an amazing life together. And it sucked because I was there for basically like I felt like How I Met Your Mother or any of these other like it felt like that type of story of like they got together a couple times and it just wasn't the right timing for it, and but he was so head over heels in love with her, and she would get frustrated with dumb shit that he would do, and then she would but then she was in love with him, and so I always try like I guess that was when I knew them I was still religious, and there's a big part of me that felt like they were soulmates, and unfortunately she's the one that passed when I was working with you, so that died, not passed. See,
Well, I mean,
euphemistic language, it's built into us.
mhm.
She's the one that died when I was working with you, so like it time's up, they're not gonna have their chance. But so I always I like hold on to the idea of it. I think I at some point early in my relationship with Sarah, we would talk about soulmates, and I think that sometimes I'm a little too honest, and it's not a great thing. And I would say, yeah, I do think we're soulmates, but I thought the last girl was a soulmate, and I thought the girl before her was a soulmate. So like ultimately, like I think it's fine when you're in it as long as you're not blinded to shit by it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say like it's a retroactive thing. You're after you're
Yeah,
together 30 years, you can go, oh look, we were soulmates. But
yeah,
in the beginning, obviously, anyone you think you're in love with or you are in love with, you think is your soulmate. Otherwise, you wouldn't say you love them. But I will say, I have a friend who, when she's divorced, and when she heard me say my thing about marry the person you can't live the rest of your life without, she smacked my arm, like punched my arm, whatever, and said, "If you had told me that before I got married, I wouldn't have married him. I would have definitely realized that's not how I felt."
yeah, yeah. I think that's a fair. I think I really like that concept. I know that I was not given that advice ahead of time, but I think if I had been given that advice, I still would have married Sarah. I think.
And it's funny, because I got an English degree. I'm okay with words, so I think I
Yeah,
phrase that straightforward, not metaphorically, but straightforward, but fully. Where my best friend growing up, who ain't the best with words necessarily, the way he told me that he was gotten engaged was called me up and he goes, "Hey man, I messed up." I'm like, "What's wrong?" He goes, "I love her. I got to marry her." And it's the same idea. Like he realized
Yeah,
that this love was different than his previous girlfriends, and he has
yeah,
to marry her because he had to spend the rest of his life with her. So he was much more concise than I was, but I think
yeah,
he was saying the same thing. And they're still
yeah.
together. They're married longer. They got married before we. I think we were engaged when they got engaged. It took us longer to get married for multiple reasons, logistics wise. And but they've been married like so just a little longer than us.
Yeah. Yeah. The advice that I was given, I can't remember if I was given this advice before I met Sarah or before I proposed to Sarah. My uncle told me, I think his father had told him, and it was good advice, and it was,
Better shop around. Ooh, ooh. Sorry.
no, it was, uh, find somebody who makes you better. And Sarah absolutely makes me better.
Yeah, that's a
And
low bar for you, though. I mean, 'cause anyone can make you better. I mean, if you average it
yeah.
out.
Well, and truthfully, if we were both applying that standard, then Sarah wouldn't have married me. So,
Right, right,
you know,
right.
so
Well, I mean, it could be though. You know, you could be like a ionic bond that together, synergy that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
but yeah, what was I gonna say? So I said, yeah, the thing about making better, and I think that the thing I've noticed, the thing that I keep coming back to is like I I I've having seen you with Madhavi a little bit, and you've seen me with Sarah a little bit. I haven't seen you hang with her that much, but like, you know what I mean?
We
Like,
have interacted,
yeah, in front of me. I mean, like, but my point being,
and if you're a ten
I don't
dollar
mean dirty.
patron,
I don't
if
mean
you're a
dirty.
$10 patron, you just heard the whole story about the time we met at the Eyes Wide Shut Club.
What I was gonna say was is that I'm okay. I'm sure you've met people where their spouse is like the person who they co-signed the house with, that they fuck occasionally, that they decided they wanted to have kids together, but they don't do any of their shit together. You
Like that people that you're like, I wonder what part of the relationship they really share because I don't see it when I'm with them. Like I don't know why they're
yeah,
together.
yeah.
Right.
He's like all about sports, and she's like, and they don't hang
Sound like
out together.
sounds like the intros to an '80s sitcom. He is all about sports. She
Yeah,
loves to bake cookies, but together they're two of a three of a kind.
but she doesn't. But they don't hang out to you. Like, you don't see them to interact together. You don't get any vibe from them.
Yeah.
Like, and I know a good amount of couples like that.
So
Where
I will see that and I will raise it. It freaks me out when people think that's the way it should be. Like I've
yeah,
had like my wife used to work at the same company I did, and when she did, 4 out of 5 days a week, or even more, like almost all the time, we had lunch together. Like we
yeah,
would meet the cafeteria, walk over to the cafeteria together, have lunch together, and her coworkers would ask her why she has lunch with me all the time. And we've been married, 6 or 7 years. I had a kid or two at that point, and we're
yeah,
like she's like, because I love him and want to spend time with him. They go, but you see him all the time. Why do you want to have lunch with him? It's like, because there's not enough time in the day for us to spend together. Like every minute that we can be together, we'd like to be together. And
yeah,
generally, there's things we do apart, but you have the opportunity to be together. Why wouldn't you? And
yeah. That's
or
how I.
people, when I talk science fiction geek stuff to someone, and I'll say how my wife can outquote me in Star Trek and definitely in Lord of the Rings, and they're like, wow, she's into that stuff. I'm like, I don't know that I'd be married to someone who wasn't. Like that's for me, what I'm into. Why would I have been with someone who doesn't like any of the things that I like?
Okay, I'm gonna make a confession to you, and this is just because I don't know Madhavi that well. I always like, because I am not me in front of everybody, right? And I don't think I've gotten to be fully me yet in front of her, because I still think of her as like a nice, normal person.
She's
I
married
don't
to
think
me.
I was gonna say it doesn't connect, and it's weird because people do that to Sarah. People will be like, "Oh, Sarah," and they'll be very like, not eggshelly, but like they'll be like not the way they would behave in front of me alone, and I'm like,
Yeah.
she's married to me,
People
like
saying
she's
to
a
me at
fucking
work, "Oh, I'm going
weirdo.
to tell your wife you said that." Like
Yeah,
she doesn't know what I say.
yeah, yeah. And so I do, like, you're the best example of that, because I don't have too many other people where I'm like, Oh yeah, like they don't know, like, because I know, like, I've seen you guys together. I know that, like, she is, she's aware of who you are. You're not like, you're not you don't have a double life going on. You're the same across the board. And I always find it funny when people do it to me and Sarah, and I think I occasionally just like, I think of her and I think of Leah as being nice people. I'm like, no, but they're around Matthew all the time. They've got to be a little bit acceptable of super weirdos.
I had a coworker
like me.
Yeah, I had a coworker like early in my career who was very well respected in his subgenre. Like he worked in computer validation in the regulatory department at my company, and he's like an expert in that stuff. And um, and he's the weirdest person in the world. Like he walked past my desk and he will stop at my desk and and put up his hand for a high five, even when I'm not paying attention, don't know he's there, and start going, dude, 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 until you turn and give him a high five. And he'd come over like and argue baseball with me, like I don't even care. But like he was just so over the top, goofy and weird, but brilliant and super professional in what he does, right?
Yeah.
So one day, my wife works at a different company at the time, but in that same area. They're coming, her and her boss and one other person in the group, to my company to a seminar that he's giving in one of our meeting rooms. And her boss is going on over and over again how excited he is to meet this guy and get to move, talk to him on the break. Meanwhile, when I first started at the company, I was a contractor or whatever, and I was first getting to know him and stuff. I worked a night job at the bookstore at Barnes and Noble. And one time, my wife was visiting me at Barnes and Noble, and he and his wife were there, and the four of us were talking. And at some point, his wife said to my wife, "You haven't asked me the question." And my wife's like, "What question?" She goes, "Everyone I meet, from the office says, 'How can you be married to him?'" And Madhavi goes, "No. People ask me the question. Like I don't have to ask the question." So then they're at this seminar.
People ask Sarah the question.
Yeah, exactly. And then she and her coworkers are at the seminar, and they come to the first break, an hour in, whatever. And the guy running it, my friend John, goes, "Okay, we're going to take a 15 to 20-minute break. But there's one person here I need to talk to." And he goes running into the crowd, stops in front of Madhavi, puts his hand up, goes, "Dude, dude, dude." And she had to high five him before he would let them break. And her boss was freaking out. Like this person he's dying to meet runs over to the underling to play with high fives. Yeah, and
Nice.
Madhavi's like, "Oh yeah, we're friends."
Nice.
And I don't think Madhavi knew that he was the one. Like she met him once, so I don't think by name she knew that's who they was. Like it was like she walked in and was like, "Oh, that's the guy," and he saw her and was like, "Oh, that's Matthew's wife." So it was an unplanned union.
Nice.
But yeah, there is that question: how can you be married to him? And
oh yeah.
But that just shows
mom,
that's a person you wouldn't have married. That person who asked that question.
Yeah. My mom says to Sarah, if I say something like, if I make a, what the hell was that noise?
That was me not having put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Oh, okay. My mom, if I say something like, like dirt, well, I'll say more innuendo-y than flat out dirty, but
So I'm
sometimes
fisting this chick. In
if
her
I say
endo.
something like that in front of my mom, she'll look at Sarah and be like, "You married him." And my sister occasionally will do the same thing. She'll be like, "Why did you marry him?" Or I don't know. Like they'll all give Sarah the same thing, and it's like
we're stuck with
you've
him.
all known
You
me
chose
longer, and I was this before Sarah, so you knew this. So
yeah, you guys all had input in raising me. Like,
when
parents and older sister can take the blame for who I am.
So here's a thought. Now, this is kind of we're gonna have to lend a little bit of suspension. We're gonna have to suspend our belief for a second, because I think we both are in agreement that there is not really a such thing as a soulmate. There is there's like
there are people with whom you are compatible, and if you're lucky enough to find one of them, and then lucky enough to grow in the same direction and intertwine your roots, maybe you can succeed at marriage. And as we know, the success of marriage is dying while married. That's success.
Well, that's what I was gonna change up on this question was, is the concept of soulmates, as you and I are kind of thinking about it, is that contingent on romantic and or sexual relationships?
It is for because, me, motherfucker.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I haven't had. I'm trying to think of an example, but I feel like we all know somebody who's like, I would almost, if Sarah had not met me, her two best friends, I think, uh, are like, the three of them are
Athos and
more,
Porthos. I mean,
yeah, yeah, like the Three Musketeers, they're very much the Three Musketeer like concept. Like they are like very, maybe not Sarah so much because she's the liberal of the group, but like the others, they, like
well,
they
then they're certainly not Three Musketeers because they're not all for one and one for all.
no, they're like the idea of like your friend being like a friend
Yeah, well, I can
being
say
the most important person in your life, the person you hang out with every day. If your best friend or your maybe it's siblings a lot of times. If you're like brothers and you own a business together and you hang out, or
yeah.
twins probably
Well,
feel this
I mean, I
way.
could feel that way. Like, that Mikey and I have been friends for decades, and we will continue until we die. And if there was equivalent of soulmate in a in a non-romantic relationship, like that's as close to it as my relationship with my wife is. Our
Yeah,
friendship is strong. Our friendship is strong. I'm sorry, that's a song we improvised once in a show. It just popped back in my head to the
yeah.
tune of California Dreaming. Our friendship is strong. Our
And
friendship
you've
is
been
strong.
inside him before, right?
I mean, he's fat. I could climb into him like a tauntaun.
He's not. He's not.
And
He's not that heavy. But
he's not heavy.
anyway,
He's my brother.
anyway.
I thought he smelled
Uh,
bad on the outside, and I was right. He did.
um, I will. Okay, not that this is a soulmatey thing, and obviously, like, but I just thought of it something that was funny because you're talking about we're talking about friends and stuff. Uh,
And Chandler's dead. So
one one of the okay, let's hit all the hot button topics. The Jews, ketamine.
ketamine. You know what a ketamine?
You know what I ketamine. Oh my god, are we soulmates right
We
now?
might be soulmates. Comedy soulmates.
So what I was gonna say is that Sarah showed somebody Sarah's always saying that you look like you could be my big brother, and there was a picture of you. Maybe it was probably the podcast when you had no facial hair recently, or no, it was at the event. It was at the
When we had our philosopher visitor.
no, it
Not
was
that event.
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving.
when you had your mask on.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah showed the picture of you with your mask on to somebody and said, "Who is this?" And I think it was my father-in-law. And he goes, "That's Mike." And I was like, in like a very generic, we all us white guys look alike kind of way. I guess we look alike, but. And then Sarah says that you are what I aspire to be in 20 years, and I'm like, he's not that much older than me.
What year were you born again? I always forget.
84. So you're 17 years older than me.
Yeah.
So,
That is scary. I was a junior in high school. Like I wasn't a virgin. I could be your dad.
yeah. If time travel's a real thing, I could be yours. So.
No, my mother wouldn't fuck you.
Not only would she?
Not again.
Did you cut out? Not only would there you are.
Maybe.
Not only would she fuck me, she has fucked me.
Yeah. So while I was cut out, I had a pause. Then I went again. So you missed the again.
Nice.
The punchline was screwed up by the internet.
Yes. And the more we do this podcast, the more I go, oh, we are becoming soul now. I know. I've never had.
I know what you kind of mean.
I don't think I've ever had that kind of friendship. I think Sarah is like the closest thing I've ever had to a soulmate, to a real friend. No, because because like ultimately I do get sick of almost everybody. Like, I mean,
So there are 3 people. Yeah, 3. Mookie's close, but not the same. There's 3 people who I feel like I can make any stupid reference or any obscure reference, and they will either get it or at least know right away it's a reference and be able to play with it, regardless of whether they get the actual reference or
not. Oh yeah.
And one is, of course, Mikey, who is my best friend and partner in comedy and crime. The other is you. And we had that in the office all the time, and nobody else even knew we were making references and jokes.
Yeah.
And the other is this guy I used to do comedy with. His name is Falcon. So hey, if you guys live in the Triangle and you know Falcon, you know Falcon. Guess how many Falcons are there in the Triangle that don't fly? And saw him for the first time in years. Like last time I saw him was I think my 50th birthday party, which was not the 50th time I had a birthday party, but it was a birthday party for me turning 50 because it was a Halloween party and that's
Understood. Yeah.
Anyway, that's like the last time that I saw him. And actually, no, it was my 51st. He was at my 51st. But like I haven't seen him since. And randomly, we were at not randomly, but a mutual friend had a party on last Friday night, and he wasn't going to go until he heard that I was going because I don't usually go to those things, and he came because I was there. And by the end of the night, we were being so obscure that nobody could be near us in the conversation because it was like the episode of Star Trek with the alien race who only speaks in allegory to references to their legends and stuff. That was
Yeah.
us by the end. We were just doing quote back and forth, quote mining with each other. It was very refreshing.
I am honored that I just made that list because when you started talking about it, I was like, I feel like I'm close. I feel like I'm getting there.
I should be on that list.
And then you said it, and I was like, okay, I wouldn't have blamed you for not putting me on there, but I'm honored that you put me on there.
No, I mean, when you were in the year that we worked together in the office,
Yeah.
I mean, we could have a conversation at lunch that nobody knew a word that we were saying to each other.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And Sarah and I have that in a totally different way. Sarah and I, though, and that's I think part of maybe more of the soulmate thing is when you have when you can communicate entirely on inside jokes and references. So they're not even like it's not even just like Doctor Who stuff, but it'll be like whenever we offer if anybody ever has gum, we always we'll say to each other, you need this gum, and which is an inside joke. And I told you last week about naughty like Jeffrey Dahmer, and so like we have, I mean, literally Sarah and I can go back and forth, and they're not. People will think that they understand the reference, like the Jeffrey Dahmer thing, but there's no way unless they were in the room when it happened or I've explained it. Like,
and they don't get the
because
layers of it.
It's just Sarah and me, like, and I think that's the part of the relationship that I think becomes. It's almost like the secret. You've seen Nell, the Jodie Foster movie. They have their own twin language. I feel like when you get to a certain degree with a certain amount of time and spending with your significant other, and they're actually like your best friend, not just the way people like to say it, but they're actually that. You get to that point when you have your own like secret language, and like Logan will sit in the back seat, and we're like, does it bother you that we're just constantly doing this? And he's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
It's funny, but like he should be learning it, like the way my parents picked up Yiddish from their parents talking Yiddish, so that they wouldn't understand them, and they picked up, like, they don't know perfect Yiddish and perfect grammar, like they don't speak it like my son does, but they can understand enough of it because they were forced to pick it up to spy on their parents. You'd think they'd start getting the references even if he doesn't fully get them. What's really cool, here's a thing that you'll start running into now that Logan's getting more older and able to consume more media than just kid stuff as he gets older.
Yeah.
He will start to get the references for the first time that he's heard you make forever. Like he'll see things. Is that where that's from? There's going to be a lot of is that where that's from as he gets older. There's a friend of mine. The greatest thing is when he was like 3, he would take like a cane or a stick or something like that and bang it on the ground all the time. It's like the banging sound. And his parents, because of the 1984 movie Dune, would be like, "Oh, Daniel's summoning the worms. He's calling the worms. Look, go ahead, call those worms. Call the worms." So he'd like 3 years old. He'd be like, "I'm calling the worms. I'm calling the worms," and would bang the stick on the ground. And when he was like 16, he was with friends and they were watching Dune. And he gets to the part where I'm going to plant this thumper, like boom, 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 and it will call a worm. And he goes, "I need to call my parents." He calls parents. "We're watching Dune. Is that where calling the worms comes from?" Yep.
Yep. Yeah. But all right, back to soulmates, not cellmates.
I don't think the teacher was your soulmate.
No. Nope. You got anything else to say about soulmates?
I've been lying this whole time. Mavi's my soulmate. We were destined.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is not. So here's the thing. If you're, I think I started to say this, and I don't think I got through with it, which was if it makes you feel good about your relationship to have a romanticized version of your relationship while not glossing over the work that needs to be done, problems that exist, but you think like this is my soulmate, even if it's wrong, I don't think that that's a problem. Like when I was with my exes, like I said, I thought my first ex that I dated for 3.5 years was my soulmate. Clearly she wasn't, but like me thinking that wasn't really the big problem. It was just that, ultimately we didn't work out at the end. But I don't think that but I think that the idea of convincing yourself that you have a soulmate is okay as long as it doesn't blind you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if it's just a term you use to express how well your relationship has turned out and how well
Yeah.
you feel you see, and you're happy in your marriage, clap your hands.
Yeah.
Then cool. It's an expression. But I worry about it um, blinding someone to flaws that should be worked on, but think, well, it's
Yeah.
my soulmate. I don't know if, or worser cases scenarios, someone who's in an abusive relationship but doesn't get out because, well,
Yeah.
they're soulmates. I can't. I shouldn't. Or someone
Absolutely.
who never does the work to have a strong relationship because they're waiting to find that soulmate that magically clicks without
Yeah.
knowing that that magic is an illusion.
I feel like you ranked something yesterday, Martha, as the best.
That's the exception. She is the perfect Doctor Who companion.
she
But I'm
she's
not doing it just by appearance.
she's a good character. Her dynamic with the Doctor is arguably one of the most problematic, I think. I th- and she is very pretty. Um,
Actually,
but
I wish they hadn't done the unrequited crush backstory,
yeah,
because I mean,
well,
what I loved about her was that first episode, like when they're feeling her out as a companion, and she's about to become a doctor, and she right away is like, oh wait, what if if there wasn't some way to breathe, the air would be rushed out of the hospital by now. It's safe to open the window because it's not airtight anyway. She's just
yeah,
she's just so smart and handles the
yeah,
situation so well, and it's everything except her stupid relationship with the doctor that I love about the character and the thing. Like she's the
yeah.
perfect companion except for the
She,
crush. Though they've also
sh
retroactively made it that every companion has had a crush on him. They just expressed it differently.
yeah, she deserved better. But that's kind of the
But
story
they
of
did. She
Doctor
gets it at the end.
Who.
But like when they when she's in the Donna
Well,
storyline, like her life has progressed and gotten better. Then at the
yeah,
end,
she
she's
got.
with Mickey.
So I watched a video a couple of months ago about how there's a trope in, and I forget what it's like, the disposable the disposable other, significant other, and it's in order to we want character A and character B to end up together, but to give them a little bit of obstacle, we introduce character C as like to make it a love triangle, even though it's
Like in
really
The
just they're
Office,
there,
like
they're there
Pam
to
being engaged in The Office.
right.
It was just
However, there's
there.
a huge part of this trope that falls onto people of color, because it while Pam from The Office, obviously that's a three white people
My first thought
triangle,
was not a people of color person.
but there's a lot of tropes where it's two white people, and then the person C, the disposable person, is a person of color, and they were like, and so you get Rose and Eccleston, and followed by Rose and Tennant and Mickey, and Mickey's the disposable one, and then uh you
Danny
have
Pink. That when you
you have
meet Donna, she's engaged to a black guy. When
yeah,
Clara's she engaged, but she's in love with Danny Pink, who dies.
yeah,
Yeah, that comes up a lot. It's like it's a safe
yeah,
way to do an interracial relationship because you're not going to keep it through the end of the storyline. Yeah,
exactly. And then the person pointed out, and then in this case you have Martha is kind of the disposable relationship because he's still not over Rose, and he meets there's other women throughout that series that he meets that are that he matches with, and then she's the other person, the woman in the family blood. I can't remember her name.
Yeah,
And so there's other
the nurse,
the
whatever he
nurse,
calls them,
yeah.
yeah.
And so they're like, so then you have the two disposable people of color love interests end up together, and then she said it was like supremely insulting, especially when they had never had screen time together before. And so I was like, oh, so there's a lot of like,
Yeah, so it's funny.
I don't,
It's weird because I look at Doctor Who as color doesn't exist in that universe. They mix and match and they don't care. Like nobody even
yeah,
cares. And it just happened to be, hey, let's take the two people who are both travel with the Doctor and fight aliens and make them a
yeah,
couple because that wouldn't that be cool? They're the two people who like they don't belong in
yeah,
unit, they don't belong in Torchwood, they belong on their own, and they're the only ones who understand each other.
yeah. And I think that there's probably, I mean, I don't like being over hypercritical of stuff through today's lens that wasn't made today, but at the same time, I just think it's interesting, and uh, I think that
Yeah. But I will say for Donna, she in the did you watch the three specials, the recent specials?
yes, yeah,
And they made the last the last original David Tennant episode, which she's getting married to a black guy, and here it
yeah,
is 15 years later, and they're totally happy, totally perfectly adjusted. It was not disposable at all.
exactly,
Yeah. So
yeah,
so yay on
yeah,
them
and I
doing
think
it right in this.
they've learned, yeah,
Yeah,
and I think that they learn.
because they
I
could have
think
had her been divorced for 14 years.
right, and I think that's the key when you talk about that kind of a problem is, because Russell T Davies was the one who created all of the examples we just came up with. He learned. He's not being like, well, Apu has been a character for 30 years. I'm going to continue to do it this
Well,
way.
neither did Hank Azaria. He stopped doing a poo. Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
But
He
the
also learned.
Simpsons,
Yeah,
would have continued, and the fandom largely was like, hey, how come this is all of a sudden? And it's like it's not all of a sudden, but you learn, and so like yeah, that wasn't to throw
yeah,
Hank Azaria
yeah.
into
Yeah.
the
See,
he
I mean, his thing
he
was
handled
I never
things.
meant it as insulting, and then you point out because it's a reflection of reality. But then it was, oh wait, but it reinforces stereotypes to people who do think the
Yeah,
stereotypes. Maybe I shouldn't be playing into their stereotypes, even if I don't mean anything by it.
yeah.
That
Now
was a
to
rule we had in
listeners,
my improv comedy that if you were going to do any kind of, I mean, you have to do accents and stuff. Almost have to do it in short form
yeah,
comedy because it gets you to a shortcut character and makes it different than the last character you played. But
yeah,
our rules, if you're doing any kind of ethnic accent, then you have to play that character to the height of your intelligence. Like if you're doing an
yeah,
Indian accent, which I do really well because half my extended family is Indian, it's as a professor, not as a 7-Eleven
yeah,
owner. And
yeah.
besides, the more appropriate thing would be for them to own a hotel because every Prasad owns a hotel. We all know that's true.
We who don't have Indian family member, actually, I do have an Indian family member, but he's distant. Do not know that. Anyway, I was going to say to listeners that Simpsons reference that I just made. That will be the one Simpsons reference I will ever make because I've never watched The Simpsons more than like 2 episodes. So
I don't
you're
watch The
welcome.
Simpsons because I watch Family Guy and he recycled all the Simpsons jokes. So I don't need to watch The Simpsons.
Nice. All right. Any last thoughts?
Okay, just had him.
Any that you would care to share with
Oh,
the
gods, no. Nobody needs to hear that thought.
no. So, um, I don't have much to wrap it up. I think we did a good, we talked about it.
You know what?
I
You know what I think that's important for soulmates to do, though? If soulmates are watching this on YouTube, they need to hit the like button. They need to subscribe to this channel. They need to ring the notification bell so that they know whenever a new video drops. They need to like comment so that the
yeah,
algorithm knows they're engaged. They need to criticize you for thinking that Dopey fucks penguins. They need to share this with their friends. They need to subscribe on their podcaster player of choice. But regardless of which one they subscribe on, they need to go onto iTunes and rate it 5 stars and write how amazing we all are. And you know what? When you're on iTunes, you can subscribe to the premium stream there, and for $3 a month, and get the equivalent of subscribing $3 a month on patreon.com/talking about the big stuff and get that Patreon feed. But on Patreon, they could subscribe to $10 a month if they're really into it. And then every once in a while, they'll get an over the top, I can't believe how profane that was. Why did Michael do that to his cousin level podcast
Jesus
episode?
Christ. And if you subscribe to the $10 Patreon, you will get to see that every example that Matthew has ever used is not what actually happened. Anyway,
But $10 to find out.
Anyway, so do you have a last thought?
I mean, after that, I'll just say, everyone, thanks for spending some time with us and talking about the big stuff. Because you're my true soulmate. I'll leave my wife for you.
Me or the audience?
The audience, not you. Fuck you.